On the day of the farewell and welcome party, I arrived at the reserved restaurant right on time, as I had informed everyone. However, no one showed up even after the scheduled time had passed. Finally, I received a call, and to my surprise, it was from Steve, the department head. "Why do I have to drink with a loser? Know your place." After saying that, Steve burst into uncontrollable laughter, as if he couldn't hold it in any longer. I was so infuriated by his maliciousness that I was trembling with anger. "You guys don't want to work with me anymore, right? Well, none of you need to come to work from tomorrow." "What?" Steve asked back, sounding annoyed, as I suddenly changed my tone. "You've gotten way too cocky. Well, look forward to tomorrow. My name is Mark. I'm a middle-aged man in my late 50s, having been in the workplace for 30 years. Having worked at the same company since my graduation, I was considering settling down for a peaceful life, but an unexpected turning point arrived. Despite my age, I found myself starting work at a new company. My new chosen company manufactures electronics and is especially known for its cameras. It's such a major player in camera industry. This is the place that comes to mind. Its products, sought after for both their precision and ease of use, are popular not only among camera enthusiasts but also among beginners. Although losing market share to phones at one point, the company has recently been gaining new customers. This is probably because tour cameras and retro cameras are becoming fashionable. Gratefully, the factory is busy operating every day, with new products being announced every season. Today is the day I start work at my new workplace. Even though I'm in my late 50s, I'm just like any other newcomer here, knowing nothing. Working with young people who could be the age of my children together, it's a lie to say I'm not anxious. But the excitement of trying something new is a feeling I haven't experienced in a long time, and I was fidgety from the morning. Upon arriving at work, I was immediately guided to my department. There were a few other employees joining at the same time as me, all of them fresh faces in brand new recruit suits. Standing alongside a row of young people, I was the only one who felt the difference in age, but also thrilled with anticipation and nervousness. In this new workplace, I will be learning the job from scratch, just like them. My mentor was an employee about the age of my son. After a general explanation of the company's philosophy and business, we were briefed on our job duties. The employee guiding me seemed a little uncomfortable instructing someone in their late 50s at first, but we gradually warmed up to each other after talking for a while. I was introduced to many other employees, from a veteran with 30 years of service to a female employee soon going on maternity leave. I exchanged greetings with many employees. Everyone was kind to me, an old guy like myself, and I was touched. But there was one troublesome individual. That was the department head, Steve. Steve is in his late 50s, just like me. He's favored by the executive director, Michael, and always carries himself with overflowing confidence. He seemed quite motivated at first, as he came to encourage us new recruits. However, listening to his conversation with my mentor, I couldn't help but notice many concerning remarks. "Hey, bring me a coffee," he ordered in a commanding tone. The employee was in the middle of conversation with me, but left the room as ordered, without finishing his explanation to me. Steve, looking satisfied as he watched the employees retreating back, added, "Hurry up and run, you know that, right?" and then started smoking with a content look. This company is supposed to be smoke-free indoors. Yet, unable to speak up to Steve, who is their superior, the other employees simply turned a blind eye. A pregnant female employee looked uncomfortable in the room. She probably wanted to avoid the smoke but couldn't leave her seat during work hours. I couldn't help but be concerned and reluctantly approached Steve. "Excuse me, but could you please smoke in the smoking area?" The employees around me became noticeably restless all at once. Steve immediately frowned and said, "What? What are you talking about?" "My name is Mark and I've recently joined a company. I believe some people might be sensitive to cigarette smoke, so I'd appreciate it if you could put out your cigarette." I could feel a surge of anger brewing in Steve's eyes. With an attitude that suggested he wouldn't tolerate any defiance, I braced myself for trouble. "Please put out your cigarette now. I was just informed that, according to company policy, smoking inside the building is prohibited." When I reiterated my request, Steve shockingly kicked a nearby desk with all his might. The surrounding area fell into a dead silence, and everyone was looking at me and Steve. "You seem to have a lot to say for yourself. Do you even know who I am? With just one word from me, I can make or break your future. You do understand that, right?" Leaving those words behind, Steve left the room without waiting for my response. The concerned looks of my colleagues converged on me. Who was left behind? I tried to reassure them. "I apologize for the disturbance. Perhaps I spoke out of turn." The employees assured me it was okay, but their faces clearly showed unease. Seeing their reactions, I felt anxious about how I should behave at the company from now on. Unfortunately, my fears turned out to be true. I became a target for Steve's animosity. Though I worked at the head office, Steve would find reasons to visit my department. After his visits, I would often find the documents I left on my desk thrown away in the trash can. My cup of tea would be spilled as well. It was Steve doing these all childish pranks. The other employees, unable to protect me, began turning a blind eye to the harassment instead of addressing it. Getting close to me might make them the next target. An employee who had been helping me with my work was told by Steve in passing, "You better choose who you work with more carefully." As rumors spread, people started avoiding me. Now, even for essential work-related communications, nobody would speak to me directly, opting to send emails instead. Employees told a lie about meeting times, and they began refusing work requests I made. It seemed as though Steve had ordered it, turning the whole department against me. I was frustrated by the situation. I had just started working at this new company, full of enthusiasm and excitement like in my early days. Just as I was beginning to realize the advantages of my changing job, I didn't think that I would be targeted by Steve for no reason. But Steve's harassment persisted. Eventually, it wasn't just about obstructing my work. He began to insult me directly. "Oh, our company really got the short end of the stick. Who quits their job in their 50s? What did he do to get kicked out of his last job? Must have been a rail dead weight, so they told him they didn't need a burden," he would say, making baseless accusations and laughing to himself. No matter what I retorted, Steve would come back with 100 times more sarcasm. I gritted my teeth and held on, thinking there was nothing else I could do. Steve will probably lose interest in harassment towards me eventually. I just need to endure until then. As I continued to work with that thought, Steve's visits gradually decreased, just as I had hoped. Then, employees began to work with me again, and little by little, some started to talk to me. I hoped that the workplace would become enjoyable again if things continued this way. That's when the incident happened. One day, as I was about to leave work, Steve approached me. "Hey Mark, we're having a welcome and farewell party tomorrow. On behalf of new employees, you're the one who makes the reservation. Don't pick a lousy place, or you'll regret it, got it?" Steve was about to leave after saying his piece, but I hurriedly called out to him. "A welcome and farewell party. It is quite sudden that it will be held tomorrow. Will everyone be attending? We have about 80 people, right?" "Of course, all 80 will attend. You have a problem with what? We're going to have this party for you, and you're even complaining. I've given a useless person like you a role. Be grateful and do your job." Steve cut off my question and forcefully ordered me to make the reservation. I can feel in my heart that he is really an arrogant person who doesn't even listen to other people's convenience. However, I was honestly pleased that he was organizing a welcome and farewell party. I was expecting more harassment, so even though it came with sarcasm, I was grateful for the party. I took out my phone and started searching for a venue that could rent out their entire floor. I started calling all the reputable nearby restaurants one by one to check for availability. A small pub would have been fine for a few people, but we're talking about a large group of 80 people. And with the event being so sudden, set for the next day, it wasn't easy to find a place right away. After being turned down several times but persistently making more calls, I finally found a restaurant willing to accommodate us for a private event. The staff at the restaurant were very friendly, and the all-you-can-eat and drink menu looked delicious. I was sure that Steve and the other employees would be pleased. Looking forward to the event, I was completely blindsided by what happened next. On the day of the welcome and farewell party, I arrived at the booked restaurant exactly at the time I had informed everyone. After telling the staff, I have a reservation under the name Mark, I was led to the empty, reserved space. It looks like no one's here yet. I took the seat in the corner, feeling a sense of relief and release from tension. I hoped this welcome and farewell party would help me get closer to everyone in the office. If I just focused on my work, surely even Steve would come to understand. With these thoughts, I waited eagerly for the employees to show up. But even after the scheduled time, no one appeared. 15 minutes, then 30 minutes passed, and still, no one came through the door. The staff at the restaurant started looking anxious too, glancing at me as if they wanted to say something. Something's wrong. Do they not know where it is? I tried to contact my colleagues on my phone, but couldn't get through to anyone. No matter how many times I called, all I got was the ringing tone. Finally, I received a call, and it was from Steve. Relieved to finally get in touch, I answered the phone. "This is Mark. Nobody has shown up for the welcome and farewell party yet. It's past the start time. What's happening?" Then Steve said something unbelievable over the phone. "Mark, you're such a loser. Did you seriously think you were going to be welcomed? Why should we waste our precious time drinking with an incompetent like you? Know your place." With that, Steve burst into uncontrollable laughter. I could hear more laughters in the background. This means that several people, along with Steve, decided to bail on the event. I confronted Steve in a low voice. "So, you never planned to have the welcome and farewell party in the first place? Nobody felt like welcoming you. We just let you enjoy the dream of organizing your own welcome and farewell party, out of pity." Steve laughed even more. I was shaking with anger at the sheer malice of his actions. Steve continued to mock me. "You've already had your welcome and farewell party, so you don't need to come to the company anymore. We don't want to work with someone incompetent like you." "Is that so? This has made it very clear what kind of person you are, Steve. You don't want to work with me, right? Should I take it that everyone in the department feels the same?" Steve yelled back in annoyance as I asked, holding back my anger. "That's what I've been saying. In addition to being incompetent at your job, are you also deaf? Well, none of you need to come to work from tomorrow." "What?" Steve sounded annoyed as I suddenly changed my tone. "What is this incompetent blabbering about? Are you stupid? You've gotten way too cocky. Well, look forward to tomorrow." With that, I hung up the phone unilaterally. Steve seemed to be making a fuss on the other end, but it was no longer my concern. Afterward, I carefully considered what I should do next. The next day, there was a huge commotion at the company. People were crowding around the company notice board, frantically wondering what had happened and what it all meant. Employees from other departments also gathered, hearing the noise, making the area in front of the notice board as crowded as a station during rush hour. The notice board displayed details and reasons for disciplinary actions against employees. Disciplinary actions, including pay cuts and demotions, were taken against 79 employees from my department. What does this mean? Did you know about this, Mark? An employee, realizing I was the only one not demoted, approached me with a question. Just as I was about to answer, Steve appeared on the scene, his face beet red. He stared at the notice board as if to burn holes through it, then stormed up to me, fuming as if steam were about to burst from his head. Why should I be demoted and transferred? And why are you being announced as the new HR director? Did you pull some strings with the higher-ups? Steve, red-faced and angry yet smirking maliciously, confronted me. No, I was called to this company to be the HR director from the start. Upon hearing the truth, Steve's face turned even redder, and he began to sweat profusely. Before coming to this company, I worked in a globally renowned electronics company, specifically in the computer department. I had moved through various departments and ultimately contributed to the workplace as the HR director until I left. When I joined, it was a time when nearly half of all generations had started owning computers, and the popularity was skyrocketing. Eventually, it became an era where everyone had a personal computer, boasting tremendous sales. However, the brand faced a crisis with frequent product defects, leading to a loss of trust. At that time, as the HR director, I was entrusted with significant responsibilities and decisions, but I fought to protect our employees as much as possible. A company thrives because its employees work hard. I did my best to create a comfortable workplace, promoting young employees to executive positions and making it easier to take paid and child care leave. As a result, the turnover rate significantly dropped compared to before the defect issues, and the employees became able to work with high motivation and smiles. The company's performance made a V-shaped recovery, becoming a heartwarming story featured in the media and magazines. At that time, the camera manufacturer I now work for was one of our clients. Mr. Johnson, the president of the company, often greeted me and engaged in small talk. Hearing about my achievements, he directly recruited me, saying he wanted me to join his company. I never expected to be offered the position of HR director. As I finished my story, Steve became hilariously flustered. But you joined as a new employee. It's absurd for an HR director to be treated as a new employee. I was a complete newcomer to this company. Since I was going to be the HR director, I wanted to see the company's internal situation with my own eyes. I said this with a smile. I never expected to uncover such an astonishing fact. I couldn't imagine a department head would do such petty harassment. I ended up causing quite a trouble for the restaurant yesterday. It was when Steve, with his fists trembling, was about to retort to my words. Which one of you is Mark? You're here, aren't you, Mark? A portly middle-aged man, with his face contorted in anger, approached us. It was Michael, who had favored on Steve. I am Mark. How may I help you? The area fell silent and tense as I responded. Then Michael, with his face turning beet red, started yelling angrily. What does it mean that Steve has been demoted? How dare you make such a decision without talking to me, the executive director? I've joined as the new HR director. Therefore, I made the necessary personnel changes. That's an abuse of authority. I won't accept it. I've heard from Steve about the troubles caused by an utterly incompetent subordinate. How can such a person be the HR director? Michael seemed ready to complain further. But I calmly presented something. Good timing. I had something to discuss with you as well. Here's the bill from the restaurant where yesterday's welcome and farewell party was supposed to be held. It's the cancellation fee for 80 people. Should I send this bill to Steve, or would you prefer to take responsibility for your subordinate's mistake, Michael? Michael slapped the bill onto the floor. And while spitting, he said, "This must be your harassment, isn't it? Do you have any proof that Steve canceled it? I have the proof right here. I calmly took out my phone and played the recorded conversation. It was the conversation with Steve from when he bailed on the event yesterday. As the recording played, the murmurs around us grew louder. As you can hear, I have the proof, so please pay the bill. I'll definitely crush you. It was when Michael's eyes bulged with anger. It's quite lively here, but what seems to be the matter? Mr. Johnson. It was Mr. Johnson who appeared. Seeing him, Michael began to fidget nervously. Now everyone, could you please return to your work? Let's give our best effort today as well. At his request, the employees surrounding us went back to their departments. After a while, only I, Steve, Michael, and Mr. Johnson remained. Michael glared at me with sharp eyes. Mr. Johnson, this man Mark has caused tremendous trouble for Steve. Trouble? Could you elaborate for me? As Mr. Johnson faced me, Steve and Michael both smirked with a look of confidence. They must have thought he would take their side. I calmly began to explain. Michael here planned to promote Steve to department head by bribing the former HR director to do his bidding. Michael frantically started to refute my accusation. Mr. Johnson, his story is nonsense. He's a terrible man who lies effortlessly to protect himself. I have evidence right here. I calmly handed the investigative documents I brought to him. As he read, his expression grew grim, while Michael and Steve turned pale and began to tremble. Knowing Michael's actions, I couldn't overlook this as the new HR director, which is why I made the personnel changes. After hearing my explanation, Mr. Johnson sighed wearily. Thank you, Mark. I had heard rumors about Michael and his group's actions before, so, regrettably, I understand now after seeing the investigation documents. Hearing this, Michael collapsed to his knees, and Steve stood agape, speechless. Mr. Johnson glanced at them, then reassuringly patted my shoulder. Only the pitiful cries of Michael and Steve echoed in the room. Later, Michael, who would have been fired under normal circumstances, was demoted to a regular employee and transferred to a remote factory, thanks to Mr. Johnson's leniency. However, it seems that even without his title, he couldn't shake off the habit of acting superior, which he had developed over the years as an executive. Even at the factory, he continued to issue bossy orders, which apparently made him quite unpopular with the local staff. A few months later, he was sued by a subordinate and was finally dismissed for disciplinary reasons. Without any severance pay, his life became quite difficult. Steve was also demoted to a regular employee and transferred to another branch. However, the story of his actions at the head office quickly spread, making his life there unbearable, leading him to quit his job. After losing his job, he was divorced by his wife and had to hand over the house as alimony, leaving him with nothing. Nobody knows his whereabouts and what he's doing now. As for the employees who mocked me under Steve's influence, it was deemed they couldn't stand up to him. The company decided to rehire those who sincerely regretted their actions. Finally, with all the turmoil settled, I began my work as the HR director. Today, as a start, I plan to visit each department to listen to the employees' requests. The company thrives because of the hard work of its employees. Therefore, I want to continue striving to create a good company where employees can work comfortably. Respecting each other and building a supportive relationship among colleagues is crucial for the company's growth. I aim to quietly support those working on the front lines, ensuring they can work with smiles on their faces. People with only high school diploma who are broke are useless to society. Just deposit like $1 in my bank, he said. This happened at our high school reunion, the first in 25 years. As I was leaving the banquet hall to go to the restroom, I passed by the smoking area and heard Max laughing and talking. Peeking in, I saw Max, now a bank president, chatting away with his friends. It was immediately clear they were talking behind my back. Max, whose parent was a government official, has always looked down on people. "I'll leave just $1 and close all my accounts," I muttered to myself quietly and left the scene. My name is David. I'm 43 years old. Today, I came to New York for our 25th high school reunion. I was born and raised in New York, but moved an island in Hawaii 15 years ago when I got married, so this is a bit of a homecoming for me. Having lived in the city my whole life, I was worried if I could adapt to living on such a different life on the island, but as they say, wherever I lay my hat is home, and now I'm fully integrated into the local community as an islander. Now, just hearing New York conjures up images of a distant city, and even when I received the invitation to this reunion, I was hesitant. But it's the 30th anniversary reunion, and my wife suggested I should go, so I decided to show up. There are 3 ferries a day from the island. I left home early in the morning to catch the first ferry and arrived in New York by evening. The first thing I did was reunite with my old high school buddy, Mike. Mike and I remained friends even after graduating high school. We haven't seen each other much since I moved to the island, but we've kept in touch for social media now and then. Mike was smart even back in high school, and now he's working as a lawyer. However, when Mike spoke with me, there was a simplicity about him, unaffected by any titles, just like the old days. We hit it off right away and decided to have a pre-reunion celebration, just the 2 of us. The high school I attended was renowned in New York as a preparatory school, attracting students with promising futures. It was a rather uninteresting school where most students attended just to follow the path laid out by their parents. Eventually, I got tired of studying, and, while everyone else was aiming for prestigious universities, I was the only one without a clear plan for the future. Being the only unserious student in my grade, even the teachers and my own parents found me difficult to handle. Mike was the only one who didn't change his attitude towards me. Even now, as a distinguished lawyer, Mike is fundamentally driven by a desire to assist those who are socially vulnerable. He could have been a corporate lawyer, living a comfortable life, but he chose to work in a small-town law office. By the way, I saw Max on the news the other day. Can you believe it? He's the president of Smith Bank now. Mike said, his face flushed from the alcohol. Max, if I recall correctly, was a class representative and his father was a government official at the Treasury Department. I had heard about the youngest ever president of Smith Bank, even on the island where I live, but I had no idea it was my former classmate. That said, my parents were regular company employees, so I had no connections with high-ranking officials and didn't talk much with Max. But I remember that Mike was always very careful around Max because his parent worked as a secretary under Max's father. Max took advantage of that, making Mike, who was the school committee secretary, do all the grunt work and annoying tasks. Regardless of our parents' statuses, I believed there was no need for us kids to be apprehensive around each other, but Mike seemed unable to stand up to Max. Max always liked bossing people around. It's those types of people who end up in charge. I never really liked him much. When I said that, Mike gave her a smile and replied, "That's true." On the day of the reunion, all the classmates who gathered had aged gracefully and seemed to be living decent lives. Living on the island for so long, I found it hard to keep up with their conversations and felt anxious, like a young person visiting New York for the first time. Some had moved to the countryside in anticipation of retirement, but I was the only one living on an island, cut off from the mainland. Sure, countryside living is peaceful and ideal for retirement, but the lack of major hospitals and conveniences can be worrisome. Many islanders have moved back to the mainland with the future in mind. However, the view of the island, surrounded by the sea in every direction, is incomparably beautiful, and I haven't found anything that can replace it. And then there's Emma. Even as I stand here, I find myself thinking about returning to the island. As we were having that conversation, Max, the bank president I mentioned earlier, joined in. No, he didn't just join in. He came to take over the spotlight. Max has always enjoyed drawing attention to himself. When taking the lead among our classmates, Max always had a gleam in his eyes. When I said, "Congratulations on becoming the president," he replied with a nonchalant air, as if to say it was expected. "This is my era now. I'm going to be a force that moves America," he laughed. In a joking manner, I said to Max, "Then, I have a favor to ask of a president who will move America. Could you establish a bank branch on our island? Relying solely on a basic post office is quite inconvenient." Max smirked condescendingly at my words. "Sure, I'll think about it. When that happens, David, you can be the branch manager. I'll make a special exception and hire a high school grad like you because you're my classmate," he said. To that, I responded with a sarcastic "thanks a lot. I don't really mind being a high school graduate, because educational background is a thing of the past. But Max probably comes from a bureaucratic family background and has been through the grind in an academic-oriented society. So, I think he believes it's inevitable to be judged by one's educational background. Now that we are adults, we should just laugh it off." How much time has passed? As the party was reaching its peak, I decided to head to the restroom and left the banquet hall. The restroom was at the end of a long corridor, and on the way, I saw Max and a few classmates in the smoking room. I don't smoke, so I intended to just walk past, but unfortunately, I overheard a bit of their conversation. I heard the word high school grad and realized they were talking about me. In this school, I'm the only one who was just a high school graduate. People with only high school diploma who are broke are useless to society. Just deposit like $1 in my bank, he said. Max said, followed by laughter from several others. And so, memories of days gone by resurface in my mind. Though Max never said it directly to me, he used to laugh about me, a kid from an ordinary family, with his friends behind my back. I think laughing at people is a pitiful act, showing that the persons laughing aren't even aware of their own prejudices. It's surprising that even now, as adults, he would say such things. That such a person can become a bank president is absurd. I'll leave just $1 and close all my accounts, I quietly said to myself. In fact, my wife and I run hotels and inns on the islands of Hawaii, and in recent years, thanks to inbound tourism, we've been booming every day. In particular, the Museum Inn, an old house that was purchased and renovated with the help of a famous architect, is fully booked for the next 3 years. Smith Bank is one of our company's main banks, but I can't leave the assets of the company that my wife Emma and I built in the hands of a bank led by someone like Max. I met Emma, my wife and business partner, when I was 25. After high school, I worked on construction sites for a year, saved up money, and then traveled the world, not knowing what I wanted to do. I thought I had to leave America to find my future. Back then, I blamed America for being boring, ignoring the fact that I didn't have any dreams of my own. The world was as vast as I thought, but walking through foreign megacities didn't bring me much joy. In fact, they didn't seem much different from America. Then I befriended a young man from a small ethnic group in Africa and was invited to his homeland. There, I encountered the essence of living a fulfilling life. Their eyes, living a simple life in nature, sparkled more than anyone I'd seen before, and everyone was smiling. I had traveled through several countries by then, but I hadn't seen any advanced city where everyone was smiling like that. Even America isn't like that. People say Americans used to live fulfilled lives without much material wealth, But nowadays, it seems like Americans live oppressed by their possessions. I'm convinced that what's missing in America today, or rather in myself, is something those in Africa know all too well. So, I decided to live with them for a while and learn how to enjoy life. The local children, curious about their rare American visitor, eagerly exchanged cultural insights and games with me. During this exchange, I noticed a fundamental difference between us. They could easily list their own strengths, while I struggled to name even one thing that I liked about myself. "Why don't you know your good points, even though it's about yourself?" a young girl asked me, leaving me stunned. It wasn't that America was boring. I realized that not having interests in life came from not even being interested in myself. Upon returning home, I decided to travel across America with a map in hand. I realized I knew nothing of America outside New York, where I was born and raised. I wanted to explore various places in America and talk to different people. That's when I met Emma on an island in Hawaii. I fell in love with the island's beautiful landscapes and atmosphere and spent some time helping the locals while enjoying the scenery. In that scene, Emma was there. She was about high school age and would visit the lighthouse on the Cape every day to gaze at the sea. According to the lady who ran the inn where I was staying, Emma was the daughter of a local influential figure, born not in a good health and had never left the island. Since the island has schools up to junior high, but no high school, one has to go to the mainland for further education. However, Emma's health made that impossible. There are limits to what one can achieve by simply opening a textbook and studying on their own. Then I offered to tutor her as one of her home teachers. At first, her parents were puzzled by me, a stranger whose background they didn't know, but once they learned that I had gained the trust of the islanders, they kindly took me in. After staying on the island for about a year and teaching Emma, I resumed my travels, exploring every corner of America from north to south for several years. This extensive journey deepened my appreciation for America, but the most memorable place was the island where I met Emma. I wanted to live there forever. Emma, with whom I had kept in touch, also wanted me to return. Her parents trusted me, and upon my return, Emma and I got married. I was the one who proposed renovating the buildings on the island and initiating a revitalization project. By showcasing the island's charm through tourism and promoting it as a place for younger generations to relocate, we aimed to preserve the island's environment, a concept Emma's parents supported. Thus, a Grand Island revitalization project was launched. What pleased me most was that Emma, who had resigned herself to a life constrained by her frail health on the island, was able to awaken her dormant talents by getting involved in the project. She loved to paint and was truly talented at creating wonderful pieces. Together, with the support of the islanders and Emma's parents, we renovated the entire island, turning it into a significant industry that even gained international attention. However, for someone like Max, who's taking it easy in the convenient world of New York, the beauty might be hard to appreciate. They believe they're the ones driving American society. The next day, I visited Smith Bank's headquarters, where Max worked. After handing in my business card at the reception, I was quickly shown to a meeting room. Just mentioning my name would likely elicit laughter, but dropping my company's name would bring Max himself to meet me. As expected, Max was visibly shocked to see me. "Hey, just doing as you said." When I said that, Max, sweating on his forehead, asked back, "Doing what I said?" "Yes, I've decided to leave only $1 out of the $70 million and deposit the rest with another bank." Max, who hadn't expected me to be a president, suddenly changed his attitude as if his previous behavior was a lie, lowering his stance. "Please don't say that, President Tamil. Weren't we schoolmates, were we?" he pleaded. His sudden change in demeanor was so astonishing that it went beyond anger and disbelief to almost admiration. Was this how he ingratiated himself with others to climb to the position of bank president? No matter how much he lowered himself, I knew Max's true nature. I can go along with such a proposal now. Sorry, but I'll be moving my deposit. Not closing the account, though. I may deposit again if I feel like it, I said. At that, Max's eyes gleamed sharply. Why do you have to go through the trouble of moving your deposit then? Is this some kind of spite against me? It's hard to predict what a poor man might do if he suddenly come into money, he said, finally revealing his true self in front of me. So, that's what you really think? Indeed, I am a newcomer to success in business over the past decade. I don't know the proper way to use money, nor understand the etiquette, but I do want to use what I have for the benefit of others. I replied earnestly, but Max half listened with a smirk. Is that so? Well, my apologies for calling you poor, but if you're unsure, why not let professionals handle the investments? Just holding onto money won't increase it. You have to aim to grow it. Max insisted, clearly not wanting my company's assets moved to another bank. It's as if he's saying what's mine is his, and what's his is also his. Sure, it's always good if the money increases, but we're interested in important assets here. We'd want to carefully choose who we are dealing with. In that case, it should definitely be Smith Bank. Max exclaimed. He seems to have a lot of confidence in his job. Or perhaps he's never doubted anything about himself. He was always believing he's right and supremely competent. I couldn't help but feel a bit envious of Max. Riding the rails laid by predecessors without a single doubt, I felt I could never measure up to Max. But even if Max was right, I couldn't bring myself to like his way of thinking. You think money is the most important thing in this world, don't you? I asked. Max laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, I wouldn't go that far. Saying money is more important than human life would cause an uproar. Even if I thought it, I wouldn't say it, he said. So, you do think so, just not out loud. Max's face deepened with wrinkles, casting stark shadows. It was as if the demon was smirking. David, there's no doubt that money moves this world. No matter how strong your sense of justice is, it crumbles like a straw hut before money. I've seen it, he said. I wonder whose view of the world is broader, Max's or mine. I reminisced about my past travels. The little girl from the African tribe I met back then probably didn't even know what money was. However, I learned something very important from that little girl. Still, I can't trust you, so I can't trust this bank you manage. I'll be moving my deposit. I stated clearly. Emma must feel the same way, I'm sure. But Max wouldn't back down easily. You don't understand anything. You're on the rise now and not thinking about the future. But when the time comes, you won't get much support from other banks. But I'd lend you the money, because we're school friends, after all. I was astounded by Max's shamelessness in saying such things. School friends, you've been mocking me for being a high school graduate. You don't think of me as a friend at all, do you? Max laughed, mocking you. Have I ever called you stupid? I might have said you're a high school graduate, but that's just a fact. It's trivial. To Max, it seems everything but money is trivial. He can pretend to be friends with anyone for money. I felt increasingly sad, frustrated by the inability to have an honest conversation. I could connect with people of different ethnicities, cultures, and languages, yet I found such a vast difference in values with a fellow American. I've never once thought of you as a friend, so please, stop considering me as a school friend. It's unsettling. I'll never forget the look on Max's face when I said that. It was a face of utter despair, likely to haunt my dreams. In the end, I ignored Max's words and moved our company's main banking to another bank. When I told Mike about this, he sighed and said, I see, it can't be helped. But sometimes it's better to cut ties completely. Mike, too, it seems, has cut ties with his father. According to what I've heard, his father wanted him to pursue a career in politics. So his father told Mike that he has been working, bowing and apologizing, under Max's father, who is a bureaucrat. However, Mike rebelled against his father's words. After enduring Max's pressure during high school years, was he expected to enter a world filled with nothing but constraints? Mike left his father to become a local lawyer, a dream he had long cherished, and worked hard to pay for his college expenses by himself. David, your thinking is correct. It's not about the results. What one feels in their heart is what's right. Max lacks his heart, Mike said. Indeed, I couldn't feel any heart in Max's words. And I sensed dark clouds looming over his future without one. Soon after, news broke that the youngest ever president of Smith Bank had resigned. Apparently, his prejudiced remarks and intimidating behavior towards his subordinates had been leaked. In the past, such matters could have been hushed before becoming public, but nowadays, the general public can be the first to know about incidents. Once spread in the vast world of the internet, information proliferates uncontrollably. Max received countless anonymous defamations, leading him to become paranoid and forcing him to lay low for a while. I felt a bit sorry for him, but this might be a case of poetic justice. A person without a heart attracts heartless words, which seems almost self-evident. As the island revitalization progressed smoothly and more young people expressed a desire to move here, I shared with Emma one wish I had. I wanted to invite the girl who had made me realize the truth back then to our island. I want to go back to the village in Africa once more, bring the girl, and guide her to this island. If the girl says no, then it can't be helped. After all, this is just my own wish. But if she declined, I intended to gift her one of Emma's paintings of the island before returning. Holding Emma's painting close, I set off once again from America, ready to share my story with the girl properly this time. My name is John. I'm turning 45 this year. Today, I'd really like to share a story with you, a story of emotion, exhilaration, and a bit of serves you right. This story takes us back to my childhood. As a kid, I was a crybaby and slow, far from what you'd call brilliant. Indecisive, unable to make quick decisions, I was always dithering over things. For our summer vacation homework, we had to choose between growing roses or sunflowers. I'm going with sunflowers. I prefer roses. Mr. Hill, can I do both? While my classmates quickly made their choices, I couldn't decide. Sunflowers are synonymous with summer, aren't they? Sunflower seeds are Buster's favorite. My buddy, called Buster, is a Jungarian hamster. With his tiny body and beady eyes, he's absolutely adorable, like a little angel. If I managed to harvest a lot, he'd surely stuff his cheeks and munch away happily. Just imagining it brings a smile to my face. But sunflowers grow surprisingly large. We didn't have the space to grow a big sunflower at home. We do have a yard, but it's filled with my mom's vegetable garden, leaving no room for me. Maybe roses, then. I can grow roses in pots, so they don't need much space. As long as I don't forget to water them, they should grow healthy. If I place the pots in front of my house, our neighbors also can enjoy to see them. Thinking about it makes it even harder to choose. Am I just being greedy? John, you're the only one left. Rose or sunflower, which will it be? Mr. Hill asked. It's John again. Why can't you ever make up your mind quickly? Can't help it, John is just a slowpoke tortoise. The main character of a popular drama at the time was always messing up, and everyone called her the slowpoke tortoise. That phrase was quite a hit and even became a trend among us kids. Everyone, quiet down, John, you need to decide by the end of the day. Come to the staff room later to pick it up. Understood. For mischievous kids, a slowpoke turtle like me was just too tempting not to tease. Some of them would always pick on me. Hey slowpoke John, why can't you just hurry up and choose? I'll choose for you. You're getting a sunflower. Sunflower. I like sunflowers, but my yard is too small. Then go for the rose. But if I forget to water it, it'll die. What if I forget? That's your problem. Just don't forget. Let's stop bothering with slowpoke Sean and play basketball. Let's play basketball. Yeah, let's do it. My classmates ran out of the classroom, eager to play. I wanted to join in on the basketball game, but no one invited me. Being a slowpoke and I often stopped classes. Science and math were fine. Because there's only one right answer. Simple and straightforward, utterly basic. There's no need to fret. The problem is, yes, language arts. When faced with vague questions like what do you think the author was feeling at this time, I'm at a loss. How am I supposed to know what the authors felt? I've never met the authors, nor do I know their thoughts behind their writing. How can everyone else ponder the feelings of strangers and come up with answers? Suddenly it started raining, and I took shelter. The rain stopped quickly, so I started walking again. What were the feelings? Maybe they're thrilled, thinking, yes, the rain stopped, or perhaps they're disappointed, thinking, now I have to walk again. Or maybe they're just wondering why the rain stopped so suddenly. Of course, there's a context to every story. By carefully unraveling the context, one might glimpse the author's emotions. But if suddenly called upon during class, I have to respond immediately. During exams, I have to figure it out within the allotted time. That's when I give up. Anxiety overwhelms me and my thoughts can't keep up. The more I rush to answer, the more my mind spins, leaving my answer sheet blank. Alex, a classmate, is smart and wealthy, reigning as the leader of the rambunctious group. Alex seems frustrated with my slow pace. Because you can't answer quickly, you're holding up the class. Sorry, Alex. You're always like this. How can you not understand such a simple question? I know the answer, but I'm not sure if it's really correct. Oh, what are you talking about? If you know it, just answer. It's okay even if it's wrong. I hate making mistakes. If I do, everyone will laugh at me. Cut it out. Your attitude is so irritating. Look, I have exams next year. I don't have time to waste. If I fail my exams, it's your fault. Alex, despite his mischief, is bright and plans to take the entrance exam for a prestigious private middle school next year. He's intelligent, athletic, and well-liked. Sorry, Alex, but how can anyone know what the author felt unless they're the author themselves? Isn't it strange to even ask such a question? Listen, John, if it's a question, it means many people recognize its significance. Understand? Has everyone talked to the author? Man, you always nitpick. Is that why you can't score well? Is my thinking really just nitpicking? To truly understand an author's feelings, wouldn't you need to read the entire book? When asked what do you think, based on an excerpt, I have no choice but to surrender, saying, I don't know. Isn't that the normal response? John, you are really slow. Being slow and bad at studying is the worst. Alex's face, filled with disdain, seems triumphant, yet also twisted with irony. Summer vacation is paradise. I can relax without seeing Alex. But that was a big mistake. During the summer, I was sent to supplemental classes to study. I don't want to go to the classes, I protested desperately. But my mother said, John, you're always failing. If you don't work hard over the summer vacation to catch up, the second term will be tough. It's not that I don't know the answers. The exam time is just too short. Don't make excuses. You failed because you don't understand the material. No, Mom, that's not it. Besides, everyone has the same amount of exam time. If other kids can do it, why can't you do? If you don't understand, you should ask for help. If you don't work hard now, you'll struggle as an adult. It's not because I don't understand, I tell you. My words don't reach my mother. Reluctantly, I ended up attending supplemental classes where Alex was present. He was the leader there too. John, do you really think you can keep up here? I didn't want to come, but my mom. Are you treated like a slowpoke at home too? That's sad. No, it's not like that. Hey, everyone, be careful around this guy. He's slow, sluggish, and a complainer. John, just don't get in the way of our studies, okay? Yeah, I got it. Despite that, I was left behind even at the supplemental classes. This school was one of the top classes in the city, known for its fast-paced studies. The instructors spoke as fast as an express train. I couldn't keep up as the discussion moved faster than I could digest the information. Before I knew it, the class was over. Alex, can I ask you something? I didn't understand a part from earlier. Could you explain it to me? Why should I have to teach you? I have another class now. Didn't I tell you not to drag us down? You're not just slow, you're incompetent. Change your name to Incompetent John. I'm not incompetent. Slow, sluggish, and incompetent John. I bet you even killed your Rose, right? Behind Alex, the other students smirked. It's no use with them. They're completely on Alex's side. I don't want to go to the supplemental classes anymore. When I get home, how is it, John? Can you keep up with the studies there? Mom, I want to quit the supplemental classes. What are you saying? You're going to be a middle school student next year. You have to study hard now, or you'll fall behind. Hey, Mom, it's not that I don't understand the studies. I know the answers, but I told you not to make excuses. Have you done your homework? And you better take care of the roses or else. Mom, the roses, it bloomed beautifully, you know. Hey Mom, are you really looking at me in the flower? The summer vacation that was supposed to be fun ended up being just painful, hot, and misunderstood by everyone. After summer, fall came. A transfer student arrived in my class. This is Ryan Thompson. Ryan is good at studying, so you all might want to learn from him. I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you. Ryan, who came from the city, had a sharp and tall appearance, giving off an intellectual vibe. The girls were all abuzz and restless. In a few years, he'll surely become a top-tier handsome guy, his presence not the least bit annoying. But probably, Alex won't like him. Sure enough, during break time, Alex started to mess with Ryan. Ryan, where are you from? New York. Transferring at this time of year. Did your parents do something bad? What do you mean? Like his parents messed up and got demoted here. That's not true. My parents aren't bad people. Then what is it? My dad is taking over my grandfather's company, so we came here together. Which company? Pinecrest Construction. Pinecrest Construction, seriously? Yeah, seriously. Alex seemed to have a complex expression on his face before leaving the classroom. Alex, wait up, what's wrong? His entourage hurriedly followed him. That guy seems pretty full of himself. Is he always like that? Ryan spoke to me. Yeah, Alex is always like that. He's the smartest in this class, so everyone clings to him. Smart, huh? Jay, probably. The conversation didn't go much further. Once Alex was gone, The girls surrounded Ryan instead. It seems that the mysterious and handsome transfer student being popular isn't just a story found in movie or drama series. One day, on my way home, I stopped by my secret base. A dilapidated little shack, quietly standing in the corner of a vacant lot. Too shabby for anyone to care about, this shack was my secret haven. I love this place where I can relax and read a book without anyone disturbing me or making fun of me. On days when my mom was out working part-time, I'd kill time here. I was supposed to be at supplemental classes, but that place felt suffocating. So, I'd chill at my secret base until supplemental classes was supposed to end. Today, I borrowed an animal encyclopedia from the library. I wanted to learn more about the habitat of Jungarian hamsters, so Buster could live more comfortably. Humming to myself, I headed to the shack when I spotted a cardboard box on the vacant lot. Hearing some noise, I peeked inside and found newborn kitten meowing. Looking around, there was no sign of her mother cat. Nor was there anyone who might have abandoned her. What should I do? I already have Buster at home, so I can't take her with me. Maybe I should bring some milk from home. No, that's not right. If you're going to start something, you have to take responsibility until the end. When we got Buster, my dad gave me a stern talking to. Once you've intervened, you can't just abandon them halfway. You have to take care of them for the rest of their lives. That's what it means to own a pet, to take life into your hands, apparently. What should I do? But if I leave her here, this kitten will surely die. I decided to take the kitten to my secret base. However, I didn't know what to do next. The animal encyclopedia had information on every imaginable animal from around the world, but it didn't have a manual on how to care for kittens. What should I do? How do I take care of such small kitten? For now, I decided to go home and bring back some milk and bread. Wait here, I'll be right back. I spoke to the kitten and dashed home. When I got home, my mom was there. John, what about supplemental classes? Mom, weren't you supposed to be at work today? I had a headache, so I took a day off. But never mind that, what about supplemental classes? I'm going now. I just got a bit hungry, so I came to get some bread and milk. Are you going to eat that at supplemental classes? Yeah. That's not acceptable, it's embarrassing. I'll have dinner ready for you as soon as you get back, so hurry up and go. But hurry up, you're really slow. I wonder who you take after. Luckily, the phone rang at just the right time. While my mother was on the phone, I quietly took some milk from the fridge. I decided to give up on the bread. The kitten probably couldn't eat it anyway. I returned to the base and fed the kitten the milk. Ideally, I should use a baby bottle or a dropper, as I've seen on TV. But since I didn't have such things, I dipped my finger in the milk and let her lick it off. She must have been very hangry because she sucked on my finger vigorously. Her strength was surprisingly strong, conveying a strong will to live. Are you all alone too? Being alone is lonely, but I can't take you home. I decided to keep the kitten at my secret base. I named her Muffin. She was brown with stripes, and her big, round eyes reminded me of a female anime character. From that day on, I pretended to go to supplemental classes but actually went to see Muffin. As I took care of her, I became adept at stimulating her to pee and poop by gently tapping her with a tissue. After a few days, Muffin started to see and move around. Muffin, don't go there, it's dangerous. Though I called out, Muffin didn't seem to understand. As I was cleaning up the mess Muffin made, she disappeared. Muffin, where did you go, Muffin? I turned pale and dashed out of the shack. Where is she? Where did she go? It's dangerous for such a tiny one to be outside. I need to find her quickly. As I frantically searched, I heard a voice from behind. John, what are you doing here? Turning around, I saw Ryan. Ryan, have you seen a cat? A brown striped one with round eyes. Your cat? Yeah, her name is Muffin. She ran off somewhere. It seems so. I must have had a pretty pitiful look on my face. Ryan peered at me with a worried expression. All right, let's look for her together. Really? Of course. With that, Ryan helped me search for Muffin. Winter evenings bring early nights, and the surroundings have already become completely dark. We peered into the overgrown bushes, but there was no sign of Muffin. Meow, meow. A faint cry came from somewhere. There, John, over there, isn't that her? It seems Muffin had crawled between some pieces of wood. Ryan carefully, gently, and slowly pulled Muffin out, making sure she didn't get hurt. Muffin, I'm so relieved. This little one's leg is injured. Where? I could see something like blood on her back leg. Maybe she cut it on the wood. We should take her to a vet. At this hour, they should still be one open. I can take her to a vet. Why not? As I hesitated to answer, Ryan seemed to understand. Are you keeping her secretly in that shack? Yeah, it's my secret base. Can't you take her home? I have a Jungarian hamster at home. But it's cruel to leave her like this. Okay, I'll take her in. Really? Are you sure? My family loves animals. Besides, this one is so cute, they'll definitely allow it. Thank you, Ryan. I'm counting on you. And so, Muffin became Muffin Thompson. Ryan took Muffin to the vet that same day. Fortunately, the injury wasn't serious, and the vet said it would heal in a few days. This incident brought Ryan and me closer together. I visited Ryan's house almost every day to check on Muffin. The time spent with Ryan and Muffin was incredibly fun and flew by quickly. John, you're not bad at studying. It's more like you overthink things and take too long to come to an answer. Do you get frustrated with me, Ryan? I don't get frustrated. I just see that you're really trying hard, but that must be tough during tests, right? Yeah, I run out of time. It's because you overthink. John, you're not dumb. You just lack decisiveness because you overthink. But how can I be sure it's the right answer? John, you're like someone at a crosswalk who looks right, then left, then right again, and left again, and still worries about cars coming, looking back and forth again. If you keep doing that, you'll never cross the street. Checking is important though. Yes, but if you only keep checking, you won't move forward. Just trust your first instinct and write it down on the answer sheet. What if it's wrong? Then you just have to get it right next time. Stop pondering and just write down the first answer that comes to your mind. After school, Ryan and I practiced solving practice questions. We timed ourselves to finish within a set period. Whether it was right or wrong was secondary. The main aim was to produce an answer. John, don't hesitate. You're not bad at studying. You just have a habit of worrying. If you organize your thoughts and eliminate your doubts, your grades will improve quickly. Ryan's advice was beyond his years. Really smart people are amazing. Thanks to Ryan, I gradually became able to solve problems within the time limit. Ryan and I had Muffin in common. The more time we spent together, the deeper our friendship grew. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had a best friend. But there was someone who didn't find our friendship amusing. It was Alex. Hey, Ryan, if you hang out with incompetent John, you'll become incompetent too. John isn't incompetent. Who knows? He might even score better than you on the next test. That's impossible, because this guy can't keep up with his studies and is always skipping supplemental classes. John, were you going to supplemental classes? Oh, well, sort of. I told my mom I didn't want to go, but she signed me up anyway. Suddenly, an incident happened. There were consecutive incidents in the neighborhood where cats were being injured. Most were stray cats, but some were beloved pets. After several such incidents, a big fuss arose when the cat of Emily, one of classmates, was found in a tragic state. The discovery was made near my secret base, and somehow, I was treated as the suspect. John, you were hanging around that old shack, right? What were you doing there, enjoying herding cats? No, I was just reading books. That's right, John wouldn't do such a thing. Ryan was on my side. Even when everyone looked at me with suspicion, only Ryan insisted on my innocence. I saw you playing with a cat there, chasing around a brown striped one. Me too, you were chasing that brown striped cat. Brown striped cat? No. No. See, there are witnesses. Be honest, did you do something to Emily's cat, not just her cat? Have you been hurting the neighborhood cats recently? No, it's not me. John, the brown striped cat. Could it be that when Muffin hurt her leg that time? Ryan, no, I didn't hurt Muffin. Ryan, believe me. Don't look at me like that. The rumor spread quickly throughout the school, and I was called into the staff room. My parents were called, and even the police questioned me. There was no evidence that I had hurt any cats. Of course not, because I hadn't done it. But from that day on, Ryan stopped looking at me. I no longer belonged anywhere. A child like you, I can keep you at home. It's terrifying. My mother, who believed I was attending supplemental classes, couldn't forgive me for lying. The neighbors' eyes were harsh too. To my mother, I had become an unwanted child. I was sent to live with my paternal grandparents. The move was to a peaceful countryside where no one knew me. The entire area was laid back, which suited my slow pace. The study pace here was relaxed, and I, who was inherently good at studying, became an honor student. But living with my grandparents wasn't comfortable. They knew why I had been sent away. Even if I said I hadn't done it, they didn't believe me. Not even my parents believed me, so it was probably expected. I managed until high school, but I couldn't take it anymore beyond that. I wanted to go to college, but there was no money for it. I moved to New York and looked for a live-in job. No matter how good I was at studying, the only jobs available for a high school graduate like me were in manual labor. But I worked hard. As long as I kept my body moving and sweated it out, I didn't have to think about anything else. I just kept working hard, letting the days pass by. It had been about 5 years since I started working. Why don't you try for the promotion exam? Kevin, my boss, who was pleased with my work, suggested it to me. But I only had a high school diploma. Your educational background doesn't matter for the promotion exam. You work harder than anyone else here. Your work is meticulous and reliable. Sure, you might be a bit slower, but that's because you don't neglect the details. Even if you're slow, you always meet the deadlines. Everyone says they feel relieved when you're handling things. I was delighted. No one had ever valued me like this before. I have high hopes for you. You might even become a candidate for an executive position in the future. That's impossible. I couldn't be that presumptuous. Just being recognized like this was enough for me. Anyway, make sure you take the next exam, okay? Understood. People get motivated when they are expected to do well. I studied hard. Balancing work and study was tough, but the study methods Ryan taught me were very helpful. Even now, Ryan was helping me out. It's ironic, isn't it? After passing the promotion exam, I was promoted smoothly. While working as a construction manager, I became interested in design and obtained my architect's license. Further fueled by my hobby, I even challenged myself to become an interior coordinator. I, who always loved studying since childhood, was filled with the joy of encountering new knowledge. Enjoying studying led to promotions and salary increases. There was nothing more interesting than this. By the time I was 40, I had been promoted to branch manager. It was rare for someone who started with just a high school diploma to climb this high. In fact, I was the first. Kevin prioritized ability over educational background. He had always looked out for me in many ways. John, are you free tomorrow? In the evening, yes, no problem. Then, let's meet at Summit Steak at 7 p.m. Okay. Summit Steak is a high-end steak restaurant located in a prime area of Manhattan. I had been there for Kevin's chauffeuring but never for a meal. A place where just sitting down could easily cost a fortune was not somewhere I could afford to go. Being invited to such a place, what kind of discussion could possibly unfold? First things first, I needed to prepare a suit. There was no way I could go there in my work clothes. As soon as the workday ended, I dashed out of the office and headed to a suit store. And then, the next day, with a mix of anticipation, confusion, and anxiety, I entered the restaurant. Welcome, we've been expecting you. You're John, right? As expected of a high-end restaurant. There was no cheerful hey, welcome, greeting. As I was led into the room, to my surprise, the president, Mr. Anderson, was there. I had seen him in morning assembly videos, but this was the first time meeting him in person. Why was Mr. Anderson here? Is this your first time meeting Mr. Anderson, John? Yes, it's my first time. It's an honor to meet you. I'm John. You don't need to be so nervous. Please, have a seat. Yes, thank you. It was impossible not to be nervous. I've heard about you from Kevin. You're very studious, and your work is both meticulous and accurate. I'm honored. Actually, we're planning to establish a new development planning division within one of our group subsidiaries. I'd like you, John, to take on the role of division head. What? Time seemed to stop at this sudden proposal. John, this is a big opportunity. You might not get a chance like this again. Don't just stand there. Give a proper response. Yay, yes. What do you say, John? Would you be willing to take on the role? But Mr. Anderson, I only have a high school diploma, and I don't have the kind of career background that everyone else has. Can someone like me really handle being a division head? You must have gone through a lot to get here, right? I can tell by looking at your hands. They're the hands of a hard worker. I myself worked my way up from the field. I believe I have an eye for seeing how people approach their work. Mr. Anderson's words had a transformative impact on my life, filled with frustration until now. I will do my utmost. Thank you for this opportunity. Both Mr. Anderson and Kevin had truly seen me for who I was. I was determined to repay their kindness with good work. All right, that settles it. No more serious talk, let's drink. The rest of the evening felt like a dream. I was deeply moved by Mr. Anderson's stories of his struggles. I learned a lot about what it means to be a leader. Having drunk a bit too much, I excused myself to the restroom. What a wonderful feeling. Such good wine. Finally, the spotlight seemed to be on my life. Lost in my euphoric thoughts, I was suddenly approached. Hey, isn't that John? I turned around, and there was someone I never wanted to remember again. Could it be Alex? It had been since elementary school graduation, over 30 years since we last met. Yet, I instantly recalled the nightmares of my childhood. "It is you, John. Long time no see. What are you doing here?" "Just having dinner." "Dinner? You here? How can someone incompetent like you afford a place like this? Your face and hands are all dirty. What? Are you doing manual labor? That suit doesn't suit you at all. Did you get the wrong place or something?" Classic John, always slow and incompetent. "Just get out of here." "No, I'm not mistaken. I'm having dinner here." "Stop it, will you? Today, we're celebrating my promotion to president. In the next personnel change, I'll become the president. It's different for someone like you who does physical labor. It may bring bad luck. Could you please leave?" "President? That's impressive. Which company's president are you becoming?" "A subsidiary of Pinecrest Construction." Pinecrest Construction. You remember Ryan's company, right? Ryan. His father was the president of Pinecrest Construction. So, Alex must have ingratiated himself with Ryan and made it this far. Is that why he saw me as an obstacle? Perhaps the whole cat incident was Alex's doing. Don't speak so casually to the next president of the great Pinecrest Group, you incompetent John. The door opened and Kevin appeared. "John, who is this person?" "He's Alex, a classmate from my elementary school days. He's about to become the president of a subsidiary of Pinecrest Construction." Mr. Anderson's displeased face was visible beyond the door. I recognized that expression as the one Mr. Anderson had when he was furious about an employee's misconduct. This was bad. "Alex, unfortunately, that position is no longer available to you." What are you talking about?" "That's my line, Alex. I heard what you were saying. Your voice was quite loud, so it naturally reached my ears." "John, who are these people?" Alex hadn't changed. He was still arrogant in front of anyone. "I have no intention of entrusting my company to someone who looks down on others and uses foul language. Your promotion is cancelled." "What?" "Alex, this is Mr. Anderson of Pinecrest Holdings." "Huh?" "The company I work for is part of the Pinecrest Holdings Group, and Ryan's father's company, Pinecrest Construction, is also a member of the group. The subsidiary Alex was about to become president of was even further down the hierarchy. In terms of position, I was above him." Why is someone as incompetent as you above me?" "Watch your mouth. John has worked harder than anyone to get here. There's no way someone as arrogant and conceited as you should be calling him incompetent. You should be ashamed." "What did you say, you old fool?" Alex, who spewed insults and tried to lunge at Mr. Anderson, was stopped by colleagues who heard the commotion. Ryan was among them, but I pretended not to notice. Alex's misconduct became known throughout the group, and he was transferred to a subcontractor of a subsidiary. It seems Ryan also faced demotion for bearing some responsibility. Thanks to Ryan, I became more efficient at handling tasks. I am deeply grateful for that, but I cannot forget the coldness of him doubting me and turning away. However, it's true that their actions taught me pain and made me kinder. There's a saying about learning from negative examples. I'll never forget the emotional scars I received that day, but I'll strive to be kind, sincere, and genuinely engage with everyone. That's the least I can do as a leader. I'll nurture myself, my team, and grow the company into something even more essential to society, repaying those who believed in me and pulled me up. You and your wife can just sit on the floor, right?" Mike, the department head, said with a malicious grin. Today is the company's 30th anniversary party. It's astonishing that he could say such a thing at such a significant event. Moreover, it's the first time he meets my wife, Linda. Normally, he'd be a bit more considerate. As I seethed internally, Jessica, the president's daughter, took an even more surprising action. Out of nowhere, she brought over a flattened cardboard box and told us, "Use this." The cardboard dropped to the floor, kicking up dust. "Shall we go home?" I said to Linda. "Yes, let's," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. And just as we got bruised, we were about to leave the venue. My name is John. I'm 40 years old. I live a modest but happy life with my same-aged wife, Linda, and our middle school-aged daughter, Anna. Linda and I got married when we were both 25, but our relationship dates back to high school. Back then, we were just friends, but over time, through many ups and downs, we gradually deepened our relationship and came to recognize each other as partners. Having been together for so long, we're not just a married couple but also best friends. We are able to discuss anything. That's why, in our younger days, we often ended up arguing over things we wanted to say to each other. But the quarrels between us were like brief showers. Just as the saying goes, after the rain, the ground hardens. Our anger would naturally dry up and vanish after a while, leaving only our affection for each other. And I always felt like we understood each other better than before the quarrel. Since having Anna, our arguments have significantly decreased. The saying "children are a bond" truly resonates with me. It's not that we consciously decided to avoid arguments for Anna's sake, but we naturally started to feel less irritated with each other. We want to continue living happily as a family of 3. With this hope in my heart, I commute between work and home every day. Today, like every other day, I was jostled in a crowded train on my way to work. The morning rush is a daily ordeal, but when I think about working for my family, it doesn't seem so bad. I'm sure everyone on this train is working hard for something. Thinking this way makes even the harsh conditions of a crowded train feel meaningful. And what awaited me at work was a pile of menial tasks. Though blessed with a loving family, I'm facing some issues at work. This company, employing 2,000 people, is a successful enterprise that has continued to grow since its establishment 30 years ago. I joined this company about a year ago. Until then, I had been working for a small, family-run business, which went bankrupt due to financial difficulties. In these times, when small businesses are failing one after another due to the bleak economy, becoming unemployed suddenly isn't rare, but I never thought it would happen to me. When it did, my first thought was of my family. After I lost my job, Linda took on several part-time jobs to support us until I found new employment. While I was grateful for her support, finding a new job wasn't easy for someone in their late 30s who had only ever worked in small companies. At one point, I even considered asking Linda to take Anna and move back to her parents' house. Linda's parents are wealthy, so it seemed like it might be better for them without me. I wondered if they would be happier if she divorced me. However, when Linda learned of my thoughts, she was angrier at me than ever. "Don't decide our happiness," she exclaimed. I was taken aback by her unexpected anger. But then she softened. "We're a family of 3. That's what makes us happy. If you're in trouble, I'll support you no matter what. So don't ever talk about splitting up again." Linda, with her gentle face, seemed a bit sad too. I felt deeply ashamed for having caused her such sorrow and started to take steps towards finding a new job. It was when I was approached by Mr. Thompson, the president of my current company. He was a close friend of my father since college and seemed to have kept an eye on me even after my father's passing. Knowing that the company I had worked for went bankrupt, he invited me to join his company. For me, this was an opportunity I hadn't even dared to hope for, to land a job again, and even at a large corporation, so I immediately accepted the offer. But soon I realized that the large corporations have high thresholds. Unlike me, who started working right after high school due to the loss of my father, the main provider. Everyone else had higher education. They also had high pride and a stoic nature, living for their work. Among them, Mike, an elite department head in his early 30s, was particularly harsh on me, a man without a degree, giving me only menial tasks. I don't know how a middle-aged man with a low education managed to get into this company, but don't get in our way, he said on my first day. Since it was a secret that I was invited by President Thompson to join this company, I just silently agreed with understood. Although it was frustrating, I reminded myself that getting caught up in such petty pride was pointless. I decided to work hard for the sake of my family. However, Mike's treatment of me worsened day by day. No matter what I did, he complained, and he didn't even call me by my name but by Johnny. "Hey, Johnny, copy these documents for everyone before I get back from lunch. Oh, and make me a hot coffee when I return," he'd say. "Yes, sir, as you wish," I responded. This response was also dictated by Mike's orders. I wasn't even allowed to answer in my own words. At first, it was embarrassing and unpleasant, but I got used to it after a while, and I naturally started calling him sir like a butler. Getting used to it is terrifying, but also a survival skill. No matter how unpleasant things were at work, seeing Linda and Anna's faces at home made everything worthwhile. Gradually, I even started thinking of Mike's harassment as something I endured for my family. Just as I was getting used to Mike, a new person appeared in my life. Jessica, Mr. Thompson's daughter. Apparently, she was dating Mike and started showing up in our department more often. And Jessica, the president's youngest daughter, also started calling me by the Johnny every time she saw me. Being called that by the woman in her early 30s, the youngest daughter of the president, was mentally challenging, but given her status, she was even more untouchable than Mike. Of course, I couldn't say I disliked it, so every time I was called by the Johnny, I responded with a smile. And in my heart, I reminded myself it was all for my family. For my family's sake, I was prepared to laugh off any unpleasant feelings, no matter what. Jessica and I are getting married. We were going to announce it at the company's upcoming anniversary party, but I thought I'd tell you specially. So, you had better prepare a gift," Mike said. Jessica chimed in with a laugh. "Don't make Johnny celebrate for us. That's just sad. You need to be happy to celebrate others, and he's definitely not happy. You can tell just by looking at his face." I blurted out, "That's not true. I have a loving family, and I'm perfectly happy." I found myself shouting this more desperately than I intended. Seeing my reaction, the two of them looked at each other and burst into laughter. "What are you talking about with that tearful face, man? You don't love your family. You just have to think you do to bear being ridiculed at work every day," Mike said. Hearing his words, I felt my heart racing. I wonder what your beloved family would say if they saw how you're at work. If it were me, I'd feel sorry and think it's best to quickly divorce such a pathetic, unreliable husband and find someone else," Jessica said, then took Mike's arm. The two of them leaned close to each other, laughing mockingly as they walked away. Although their words left me shattered inside, the images of Linda and Anna still came to mind. Normally, I'd hurry home eager to see Linda and Anna, but that day, my steps were heavy. I took a moment to compose myself in front of the door so my family wouldn't notice my feelings, then opened it. Anna ran up to me with a smile, saying, "Welcome home." But the moment she saw my face, she exclaimed in surprise, "Dad, you are smiling so much. Did something fun happen?" Anna looked a bit anxious despite her words, as if my forced smile had come across as unnatural. It seems I was trying so hard not to let my family realize what was in my heart that I ended up forcing a smile, resulting in an unnatural-looking laugh. Naturally, Linda also noticed and asked with a serious look, "Did something happen at work?" I wanted to reassure them by saying, "It's okay, it's nothing, but..." "What's wrong? Are you okay, Dad?" Anna looked at me, startled. Linda looked at me with a surprised expression. Just then, their faces started to blur in front of me. I realized I was crying. Linda gave me a gentle smile. "Can you tell me what happened at work? I'm on your side. You can trust me, okay?" Encouraged by her words, I opened up about everything I'd been enduring from Mike and Jessica. Linda listened silently and thanked me for sharing at the end. Talking to her lightened my heart, and I was able to smile genuinely again. "I'm glad you're back to your usual self." Seeing Anna looking happy, I apologized her sorry for making you worry. "You don't have to apologize. Worrying isn't bad. It shows that the person is trying hard. But don't overdo it, okay? You have to take it easy too," she advised. Her words surprised me. When had Anna become so mature? Thanks to my wife and daughter, I was able to recognize my difficulties and went to work the next day with a clear mind. "Hey, Johnny, take out the trash. The bin is full." You might not care, being a high school graduate and odd job man, but I'm busy preparing for the anniversary party. "Don't bother me," Mike barked. I responded with a smile. "Understood, Mike, but my name is John, not Johnny." Mike glared at me for a moment, probably too busy with the party preparations to argue, and left the office without another word. Standing up for myself felt refreshing, and I immediately thought of Linda and Anna. Yes, it's because of them that I can be strong. I decided to stop sacrificing myself for my family's sake. Maintaining my own pride and doing my job well is what truly benefits my family. And the anniversary party wasn't unrelated to me. I was personally invited by Mr. Thompson. Moreover, he invited Linda as well. John is like a son to me, so I'm grateful to Linda for supporting you as a wife. The party is also a way to express my gratitude, so I hope you both enjoy it," he said. In fact, our marriage was possible thanks to Mr. Thompson, who mediated between our families. After my father's death, I started working immediately after high school to support my frail mother. Linda's parents were initially hesitant about letting their daughter marry someone like me. I understood their perspective. Naturally, they didn't want their well-cared-for daughter to face hardships. I was ready to give up if her parents disapproved. However, Linda insisted on not leaving me, straining her relationship with her parents due to our marriage discussions. Feeling responsible yet helpless, Mr. Thompson extended his support. "John is like a son to me. Please allow him to marry Linda. I vouch for his character." He persuaded Linda's parents by visiting them personally. His influential words, coming from a well-respected figure, had a profound effect. Linda's parents not only approved our marriage but also offered to pay for the wedding. Linda wasn't pleased with her parents' sudden change of attitude, but I was genuinely happy to have their blessing. "You're the world's biggest softie. That's one of your good points, but sometimes you need to stand up for yourself," I responded. "You should be more grateful to your parents. They won't be around forever. We should avoid conflicts as much as possible." Hearing us, Mr. Thompson smiled and said, "You two really get along well. I'm glad I could help bring you together." We looked at each other and felt a bit embarrassed. I remember that moment. We truly owe a lot to Mr. Thompson. And then, the day of the company's 30th anniversary celebration came. Considering Anna is still in middle school, we decided to leave her with Linda's parents and headed to the venue. It had been a while since we went out just the two of us. Upon arriving at the party venue, Linda seemed a bit nervous in the festive atmosphere. But then again, she comes from a good family, so this wasn't her first time in such a setting. I was more worried about feeling out of place myself. And there was something else on my mind. As expected, Mike and Jessica spotted us at the venue and approached us with a change of expression. What is a high school graduate who was hired midway through his career even invited here? Is this some kind of mistake by the HR department? It must be some kind of error. It's just absurd. I bet there isn't even a seat reserved for you. Jessica sneered with a mean look. Mike looked at me with a malicious grin. You and your wife can just sit on the floor, right? I couldn't believe he could say such a thing on such a grand occasion, especially since it was Linda's first time meeting them. Normally, I would expect them a bit of courtesy. As I seethed internally, Jessica took an even more shocking action. Out of nowhere, she brought over a flattened cardboard box and said to us, "Use this." The cardboard hit the floor, kicking up dust, and I couldn't help but cough. Jessica pointed and laughed at me. I was willing to forgive her because she's Mr. Thompson's daughter, but this was too much. Even if they didn't know about my relationship with Mr. Thompson, this was too harsh. Linda watched the entire exchange silently with a smile, but then she opened her mouth to speak. She knew about the treatment from Mike, and she was a strong-willed person. That's why I was nervous that she might retort. But Linda gracefully greeted with a calm expression. "I'm sorry for the late introduction. I've heard so much about how Mike has been taking care of my husband." Mike glared at Linda with a spiteful look. "It's nothing like that. I'm sorry to say he's been stuck doing menial tasks every day. But don't worry, he's getting paid well enough for a janitor, ma'am." Jessica laughed at Mike's words. "Johnny here goes about his day being mocked for the sake of his beloved family, all the while smiling. It's a tearjerker, really. But I'm amazed you dared to show up here. Don't you feel out of place?" To speak so heartlessly even to Linda. I glanced at Linda, being worried about how she was taking this. Her profile was dignified, revealing her refined upbringing. At first glance, it seemed as if the cruel words hadn't affected her at all. However, I noticed a slight tremble in her lips. I couldn't tell if it was from anger or sadness, but it was the first time I had seen Linda like this. Instinctively, I placed my hand on her back and suggested, "Shall we go?" As if waiting for those words, she turned to me with her eyes brimming with tears and quietly agreed, "Yes, let's." She must have been holding back her feelings, not wanting to cause a scene, especially for my sake. Leaving was the best thing I could do for her. As we were about to leave, arm in arm, we were called and stopped. It was Mike, who had chased after us, his earlier smugness replaced by a pale face. "Wait, please come back. Mr. Thompson is asking for you. If you leave now, he said he'd fire me." "Who are you, exactly? What's your relationship with Mr. Thompson?" He gasped for breath, and Linda told Mike at once. "It seems you've finally realized the gravity of your actions. We've already discussed this with Mr. Thompson, but we'll be leaving now. If we do, you'll be fired, right? Then John won't have to suffer anymore." With those words, Linda placed her hand on my arm and urged, "Let's go." She seemed eager to leave this place as soon as possible. I simply nodded in agreement with her, saying, "Yes." "No, wait, please, I'm sorry for everything. And that was all just a joke. I never thought you'd take it seriously," Mike pleaded. Then, Linda suddenly turned around with incredible force. Startled by her sudden movement, I nearly stumbled. "If you really mean to apologize, then don't make excuses," Linda's sharp voice echoed. She seemed truly furious, her face contorted in anger, and even Mike looked intimidated by her intensity. It had been a long time since I saw her like this, when we faced opposition from her parents about our marriage. I was helpless in the face of Linda's genuine anger. Then, Mr. Thompson arrived with Jessica in tow. "What Linda is saying is correct. You both should properly apologize to them. Come on, Jessica, apologize. As a parent, I'm deeply ashamed. It seems I've spoiled her too much just because she was born later in my life." Linda's anger seemed to subside with Mr. Thompson's intervention, and her fierce expression quickly faded. I was relieved to see Mr. Thompson handle the situation. Furthermore, it seems you've been disrespectful to John on a regular basis at the company. He's a good person, so it didn't come to light until now. But normally, you could be sued for such behavior. People who can't respect the dignity of others have no place in my company. Mr. Thompson scolded them. Upon hearing this, Mike's head dropped in defeat. Afterward, Mike was demoted to a regular employee. And it is said the talk of Mike's marriage to Jessica also fizzled out. This was because Jessica moved to a distant area where her mother's family home was located. It turns out Mr. Thompson had divorced his wife. Apparently, their relationship had been cold for a long time, and they have stopped even greeting each other at home. The final straw was when his wife was caught embezzling company funds with an accountant she was having an affair with. To take responsibility and make amends, Mr. Thompson felt he had no choice but to divorce her and send her back to her family home. Mr. Thompson confided in me with a look of loneliness. I may have spoken grandly in front of you, but I'm someone who couldn't even manage my own family. In contrast, your family seems genuinely happy. He was indeed a great father. By he, I mean my father. Mr. Thompson and my father had pledged to build a future together as business partners. They met in college, one the son of a political family, and the other a farmer's son from the countryside, and despite their different backgrounds, they became best friends. For Mr. Thompson, who had always been in a competitive environment, my father, with his simple and unpretentious nature, was his first true friend. After graduating, they promised to start a business together. While working for the company for the sake of his family and simultaneously preparing to start his own business, my father got sick. Ultimately, he passed away, leaving my mother and me behind, without fulfilling his promise to Mr. Thompson. He had always felt guilty for taking my father away from us. He said helping me whenever possible was his way of atonement. But I never held any resentment towards Mr. Thompson. I knew my father trusted him until the end. My father regretted not being able to keep his promise with Mr. Thompson on his deathbed. When I told him about this, Mr. Thompson's eyes brimmed with tears as he apologized, saying, "I'm truly sorry." "Don't apologize. You've always said I'm like a son to you. I consider you as a father to me too. Please rely on me from now on," I said. Then, Mr. Thompson thanked me with a gentle smile, saying, "Thank you." It felt familiar, perhaps because it reminded me of my father. Months passed since Mr. Thompson's divorce. Although the relationship with his wife had been cold for a long time, I've heard that late-life divorces can be mentally and physically draining. This is because he has to take on the tasks that the spouse used to handle. Luckily, Mr. Thompson's sister and her husband lived nearby and occasionally checked in on him, but I was also concerned. So, Linda and I decided to regularly visit Mr. Thompson's home with our family, not just to comfort him but to maintain our connection. We'd have barbecues in his yard, and eventually, Anna started bringing friends over, and company employees and neighbors began to join. Thus, Mr. Thompson's home became a hub of social gatherings on weekends. It was then I truly understood the beauty of family. While it was always fun with just Linda, Anna, and me, expanding our social circle as a family made me see a hopeful future. I'm sure my late father would be pleased. Looking up at the blue sky, I felt as if he was watching over our happiness from heaven, smiling gently.